Okay, welcome, Delmith. Super excited to have you on today. This is an amazing topic that I think all of us solopreneurs, entrepreneurs have lived and breathed and still to this day. So Delmith Morales is from an amazing organization called Inventora, which essentially helps small businesses with inventory management, with a really cool digital aspect to it that I feel is not always accessible for us small businesses to get. And typically, a lot of entrepreneurs, resort to the bigger softwares or feel that they have to resort to the bigger softwares in order to achieve the same type of quality of inventory management. But before we get there, Delmith, again, thank you so much for being on. This is a really exciting opportunity. This is a topic that we live and breathe every single day. But if you don't mind, can you just give us a bit of a background and a history of who Inventora is? What do you guys do? And maybe a little bit about yourself? That'd be fantastic.
Sure. So first of all, thank you so much for having me. I always love this time to talk about inventory. Believe me or not, it's a really important task and something that we usually don't like to talk about. But I really enjoy talking about this because it can be very simple and very fun once you understand the topic and how to manage it. So I do all the partnerships and collaborations for Inventora. We are a small business. We started 2 years ago, and it's been amazing. We have been growing a lot of small businesses, handmakers, candle makers, and all of that. And all of many industries have been using our system so far. So we are very excited to see what it's coming on the future. This system, if I can talk about the story and how it was started, it was created by a candle maker and her husband, that it's a software engineer. So they did like the perfect combination. She was struggling with inventory management. She didn't know how to keep up with spreadsheets and keep all the numbers accurate. So once she started doing her research, she was like, I can find something that can fit my needs of a small business. So she asked her husband about how she can like automate her spreadsheets. And he said, you know what? I think I can build you a system for it.
Amazing.
So that's how it started. It was just to keep track of raw materials and finished products. But now we are like, you can integrate your e-commerce platform. You can do a lot of things in the system in order to have everything in just one place. So we help you streamline all the processes of your business and making this task easier for you.
That's amazing. And, it's such an important thing. We got to remind everyone that literally lives this every single day. There's always an obstacle in running a business. And, in our world, comprised of really creative individuals who live and breathe the making of a product, whether it's a hand soap, a candle, fragrances, anything within the craft realm. Sometimes where businesses can grow at a speed that outgrows what we're doing to manage our current operations, and we're stuck. Whether
Yeah.
you're a solopreneur or an entrepreneur, you don't have access to the resources you need to accommodate that next level of growth. And what I find very common is that it typically regresses a business owner, because then they spend even more time managing the day-to-day of their business without focusing on the core function of it. And inventory, in my opinion, is probably one of the biggest challenges a small business can have. I think when it comes to space is a big one. Not
Mhm.
everyone has the luxury of getting warehousing space with pallet racking and a tech system that allows you to understand where everything is located. For the
Yeah.
most part, makers and crafters that are starting out in some place in the house.
Yeah.
And boxes are everywhere. We all lived it. We all understand, what the conditions could look like, and you're living around your inventory, and it becomes extremely difficult to know what you have. I think,
Mhm.
the story of your founders and how Inventora had kind of was born is a testament to how a lot of us in our solopreneur entrepreneur journeys created where we are today. And I think it's such an important aspect of it. And one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on is to really help articulate the importance of inventory management, And I'm really looking forward to kind of digging into, all the aspects of it and, some of the financial and operational impacts of not having proper inventory management, but really connecting to where we all are. I think we lose touch of that. And there are so many things that us entrepreneurs go through where we just kind of have this oversight. We're going a million miles an hour and we forget to kind of stop and think of some of the, small but yet very impactful things. And having a system like Inventora is such an amazing gap filler in a business where it's, your mind is off it. You've got this one tool, similar to the story of, your founder asking her husband to automate the Excel sheet, if you will, right? So actually, I wanted to ask you, so kind of more around the fundamentals of inventory. In our business, we're catering predominantly to mostly candle makers, and there's so many different components to candle making, and you can find yourself having more boxes you can even imagine at your house or in your office or in a warehouse. Why is it essential? Like, why is it so critical for makers and crafters to even keep track of inventory through a system like Inventora?
I love that. I think one of the main reasons is to know what exactly you have in hand, what can you offer, what you actually need, because I'm also a small business owner, and I know that sometimes we have a lot of things there, but we still make supply orders and we start buying and buying and buying because we don't want to have the time. We don't want to make the time to count what we have in stock. So we prefer to just buy it again. So we can overspend our money, which is usually something that we really need to take care a lot when we are small businesses. So if you don't have that since the very beginning, it can hurt your business. You can struggle with not only losing money, but you can also let your customers in a bad situation because you're not having what you are offering, or you are running out of stock of something and you are receiving sales, or someone is asking for something specifically and you cannot be able to make it. So you won't be able to have loyal customers because they won't be having a great experience with you. And I think that's something that you really need to take care a lot, because the customers are the ones that are going to be spreading giving a word of your brand. And that's how you're going to be having more sales coming. So if you don't have that correct inventory management, your business can just stick like it is right now. It won't grow, and you won't be seeing the success that you want for your business.
I agree. Listen, I'm a firm believer. Having proper inventory management is equal to having great sales. And I think at the end of the day, you can have an organization with the highest demand. You can make a fantastic product that a lot of people will want, both for consumers and on through the retail wholesale channel. But if you don't have proper inventory, you can't support that. And I think inventory management is the stepping stone and the foundation to support great sales. It's not going to work the other way around. And unfortunately, in a very fast evolving pace that we're at, businesses have to be able to adapt to those changes. And unfortunately, within our space of being small businesses, yet we're very agile in many areas of the business. But when it comes to inventory and relying on purchasing product from a variety of different suppliers, we may be stuck and we may not have as much ability to be as agile, which is why it is so critical, and I can't stress it enough, to have proper inventory management, because I hope that every one of you have the ability to strike larger orders and be able to fulfill them. It's that moment where you're not anticipating a customer to make a larger than expected order, and you're stuck on inventory. And now the suppliers that you work with can't fulfill for you. And that's the hardest part of owning a small business is the unexpected calls for an order, but more importantly, not having the operational understanding of your business to support something unexpected, right? I want to talk to you about probably one of the most impactful parts of everyone's life, and that was, COVID. And you had mentioned that your business had essentially was started kind of in the middle of it to some degree. that was probably one of the most challenging times for any business to sustain inventory and forecast what you need, because everybody, I can say, confidently, was reliant on the same global supply chain. And
Correct.
so as a maker and crafter who has a small business, who presumably had seen higher than normal sales given that period, how critical is Inventora for a period like that, when knowing you're not always going to get product when you think you need it?
Yeah, I think like one of the things that I really love about Inventora, and probably if you get into the system, you're gonna understand a little bit better, but you are allowed to always set up a minimum stock level of your products and materials. So for example, you know that you always need to have in hand 10 jars of 12 ounces candles, for example.
Right.
You set up that in the system, and once you hit that number, we are going to give you an alert. So that way you will know that you need to purchase more, and that it is going to help you see, okay, to anticipate. For example, right now we're talking about COVID, but something that it's coming up is the holiday season, for
Mhm.
example. So for the holiday season right now, you need to anticipate your and plan your inventory, and you know that your suppliers are going to be super busy as well.
Mhm.
So you need to understand and check your inventory in Inventora, so you know, okay, this one, it's something that I'm missing. I need to make my list and make the supply order.
Right.
So I think that's something that is really valuable that we don't have if we do it manually. So automating this process, it's going to be very wise for all the companies and industries. So you don't have to overspend your money, but you also will have everything that you need to fulfill your orders that are coming.
Yeah, you bring up such an amazing point, and it's seasonal demand. And in the crafting space, everybody is fully aware of the fact that Christmas planning starts in July, right?
Yeah.
And I think it's important to know that you have to be well ahead of when the buying season starts, as from a
Yeah.
consumer's perspective, but from a supplier's perspective, we're 6 to 8 months prior to that period in terms of inventory planning, our forecast, and then in the case of a maker, production planning, and whether there's a brand change or whether there's a marketing shift in how you're trying to develop an outreach program for whatever season that may be. And given a time of the year such as the holidays, where holistically almost every industry is busy from a
Mm.
consumer perspective, things can get extremely held back, whether it's trucking, whether it is just your supplier not being able to keep up with production orders, or whatever the case may be. It is so critical, and I can't stress it enough, how inventory planning well in advance of any high demand time, whether it's a seasonal demand or whether it's just a product that you're carrying that people want, so on and so forth. It is so critical to plan your inventory and work with your suppliers to set those thresholds that Delmith just mentioned. And threshold setting is by far probably one of the most impactful ways to not only mitigate overspending on your inventory, but properly spending on product that that turns over every so often, where you can sustain the demand but still have stock left over should you need to make a certain pivot, or, as we mentioned, an unexpected call comes in, and I hope it does, where you get a larger order that you have to fulfill, and you have that inventory in stock. So I'm
Yeah,
glad you brought up that
I want to also mention, if you're using Inventora and you have been using it for a couple of years, we also have a feature that is very helpful for you to see how your business has been doing in the like the years ahead. So for example, you're going to plan a holiday sale or something, and you want to see how you did last year. So you have a section with your reports there where you can just set up your specific dates, and you can see, okay, last year I did a sale, and these were my most seller products, and also my most used materials. So that way it is going to help you, like you said, forecast for the things that you actually will need if you're planning to do the same thing, and also to get rid of the things that honestly are not worth your effort for. So if you have a lot of products that you know that they're not selling, inventory is going to tell you which products are there. Inventory is going to tell you how much materials have you purchased, the value of the inventory that you have in hand. So those details are going to help you figure out not only your budget for supplies, your budget for products, but also your marketing strategies. So
Right.
if you see everything is goes in hand, so that's why inventory is very helpful for planning everything in your business.
Right. Amazing point you brought up that I want to touch up on, the raw material side versus the finished product side. And
Mm-hmm.
now from the perspective, excuse me, of our listeners who are makers, crafters, business owners, there's two sets of inventory they're keeping track of. Inventory on raw materials,
Mm-hmm.
which is where obviously we come in terms of the supply side. And then there's the inventory of the finished product. And so I think some of the challenges from a maker's perspective is not only needing to understand what supplies they have in order to make the product they need to sell, but also how many finished products that they're keeping on hand in order to market effectively. And to your
Correct.
point, should there be an upcoming holiday sale, or we're quickly approaching Black Friday, Cyber Monday, which is an extremely large commerce related sale that everyone wants to technically want to participate in. I guess the question then becomes, can Inventora split up raw material versus finished product in terms of inventory? And can it also go as granular as changing the unit of measure of how you inventory something? So for example, if a customer is buying wax in a case form, that wax may have 25 pounds of wax in a box. Will Inventora be able to either keep the inventory as one case, or can you set it up to say 25 pounds of inventory of wax if it's just one case? So that way the maker understands, what do I have on hand that can yield me what I can produce in terms of a finished candle? A lot easier to do the calculation.
Okay, so we have a lot of things that support that. Once you start adding your materials, you can set it up like in the unit type that you want.
Amazing.
So you would like do it and personalize it as you want. And once you start creating your products, it is going to be like your recipe part of the system. So you're going to be very specific. For in a specific candle, you will need I do, for example, 10 candles per batch. So I
Okay.
know that this batch will need 10 pounds of soy wax, and you add all the ingredients that you use to make that product. So once you added all of those details, we give you a capacity thing, so a capacity number. So that capacity
Helpful.
number will tell you how many of that product can you make with the materials that you have in stock.
Yes.
So
And
that is, yeah, go
no,
ahead.
that's fantastic. That's the answer to the question, is that capacity limit is, and I'm speaking on behalf of, many makers out there that would appreciate that, because saying you have one case of wax versus 25 pounds is a big difference, right?
Yes.
And now what happens after using some of that inventory is the next question, which is the ongoing management of what you have left over. So using the same example of a case of wax that in most cases would yield, let's say 25 pounds of a full case, and I go and make 10 candles, that would take away 10 pounds of my wax and I remain with 15 left. What is the requirement of the user of Inventora to go out and adjust that? And how does that happen? To what duration does that need to happen at? And is there any automated way of managing that?
Yes. So for adjusting your stock levels, we created audits. So you can create an audit for your materials or your products. We also allow you to add categories, so it's easier for you. So for example, if you just want to update the stock level of your wax, so you select the category and then you start adding the reason of why are you editing the stock level, sorry. So that way you are going to be able to know the reason later on, so you can understand why did you change the stock level of one material or one product. And also you can say that it was because of product testing,
Right.
or a return or a restock, or we give you a lot of options to update the stock levels of your materials or products.
That's amazing. What about identifying who the vendor is? And I think, a lot of times, like any other business owner, you're out there trying to canvas the market for what makes the most sense financially and operationally. And there's times where you may be able to buy the same product from two different suppliers. Is there a way to identify where this product was purchased from in Inventora? So that way there may be no way of kind of, mixing the inventory together. And then should there be a reason where you need to talk to the supplier directly, you'll have certain stock numbers available. You'll have, stock levels available, so you can reiterate that to the supplier. Can that be done through Inventora?
Yes, I think we have a whole section only for your suppliers and your supply orders. So first you will see all your supply orders like in a list, like when was the last day you purchased it, how many orders have you done of that specific material. If you see if a product is not, like a supply that you bought, it's not a great quality, you can add a note or say, okay, don't buy or don't purchase this again, for you to know. And also you have another section of your suppliers where we give you, like your total spend amount on each supplier, so you can identify your top suppliers, your number of orders that have you done with each one of them, and also their contact information. So you have everything in just one place, and you know how much have you spending in specific suppliers and what have you purchased.
Yeah, that's amazing. And that's going to be extremely helpful. And again, I'm speaking, to the listeners of this, and, we all understand that as a business, you have to do what's best for your bottom line. But there's many times where you're exploring potentially new suppliers, and you don't want to necessarily, muddy the waters with your existing stock that works well for you, but you may have to make a pivot. Some suppliers may not have product for you as available as you'd like it to, so you're able to source it elsewhere. So, to Delmith's point, the ability to segregate vendors and run, capital spend reports based on suppliers is definitely a lot more transparent than trying to remember what you spent or looking at previous invoices and manually doing the total, which we all lived, and in most cases we still do to some degree. A question for you: what about utilization of product? I think, as we kind of fast forward and we go through the calendar year, extremely quickly, a lot of times we forget how well something did for us the prior year. So, for instance, if a customer is using a certain type of soy wax that performed really well in a product over the last year's holidays, they want to know how much of that they actually utilized when making their products. Is there a way to run historical utilization reports based on inventory and how often the turnover happened?
Yes, in the report section that I mentioned earlier, you can also see the reports and graphics of your products and your materials, how each one of them have performed, like how much usage have you used of each one of the materials or products. So you can have all that data there in numbers, and also detect which ones are, like, for example, if you have bestsellers and you want to know how well are they doing, you can check that also in the reports. So you can have all of that data that can help you figure out how your materials and products are performing.
Yeah, and I think if you've used certain products long enough, going back to a point you made earlier, by being able to set triggers in the system for stock level thresholds that you want to set for yourself, especially for some of the common items such as, fragrances and waxes and wicks and whatever other constituents you may need in your business that's more of a reoccurrence. I think that's extremely important to have. Reporting is the best conversation you can have with your business, right? Reporting is the one thing that's going to have the best memory. Whereas you're doing a million things as a business owner, you're wearing multiple hats. It's very difficult to kind of keep track on everything. And so having a system like this, I feel, is so critical. And I remember the days, whether it's starting a business idea and having tangible inventory and your head spinning a million miles an hour because you just don't know what you bought, how much you have, where it's located. And, at some point your garage, basement, family room, dining room table is not going to be enough to kind of house all the inventory, and you've got to move it around. And that's a very common problem, especially in today's world where commercial industrial real estate is very expensive, and sometimes can't be justifiable for a small business to take on a big commitment, financial commitment, to obtain certain space for their business, but they need it. And so prior to that is I need to have at least a better idea of where my inventory is and what my stock levels are, before I go into a facility where I can potentially physically walk by it every single day, right? Which is interesting. Let's talk about waste management. I mean, I'd like to believe everybody is an expert on knowing how much they use it all, to the last little ounce. But the reality is that we come across times where we overstock on inventory and we just can't get rid of items, and whether it's finished goods or raw supply. What does Inventora do to kind of help guide, or at least to some degree perhaps mitigate wasted inventory, wasted stock, or at least perhaps give some early indication to the business owner that this inventory is in stale mode and it hasn't moved as often as you think it should? Maybe you should put some eyes on it and perhaps do something with it.
Yeah, I think that's something that the report features do as well. It gives you the data of the things that are actually not moving for you. You cannot, in the system right now, you cannot put like the waste of each one of your materials or products that you specifically have. We are trying to build something because that's a very nice requirement for us to have, because people, probably you are not like super exact and you're going to be having waste. So we are working on having a feature for that specifically. But now the report section gives you the lowest moving, I don't know like the exact name that we have it on, but like the slowest movement of products or materials that you have. So that's the alert for you to understand, okay, I need to make a sale, or I need to see if actually the materials are in a good state, right? Or should I just throw them away or give it as a like a gift to someone else who needs it or something like that. But that report section gives you also that data, so you can understand which products and which materials aren't actually just keeping a space in your warehouse.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, I'll reiterate it that, as you get bigger in a business, you will lose sight on every single component of inventory. And it is extremely important to, depending on how many SKUs you carry, both raw and finished product, it will determine, the cadence as to how often you're looking at your stock levels. But it is extremely critical to go through it as often as you can, just so you have an idea of what may be sitting in stale mode, what is actually moving faster than you expected to, and so that you can stay ahead of it and mitigate any delays that could put your business at a potential risk of not being able to, fulfill the demands of your customers, regardless of the time of the year. Delmith, just one thing I want to talk to you about, and I'm actually curious myself, is the integration aspect of it. So walk me through Inventora's integration capabilities. I'm a maker. I use Shopify. I sell on Etsy. I have my own website. What forms of integration are there, and how easy is it to integrate into any one of these platforms of what we're using?
So I think that's one of my favorite features of the system. We are now supporting to integrate with Shopify, Etsy, Square, Wix, and WooCommerce. And we are always working on supporting other e-commerce platforms, but right now we support those 5. It's very, very simple. It's for me, inventory is very user-friendly. And we also have a lot of tutorial videos on our YouTube channel, so we can help you on the long way to set up everything in Inventora. But once you go there, you choose, for example, I want to connect to Shopify, and
Right.
we'll just give you all the steps that you need to do. And then it will automatically pull all your sales, all your customers once you integrate this into the system. So you will have your customers in Inventora as well. You will have all your sales. If you have Shopify and Etsy, you can sync both e-commerce platforms. That's not a problem. And also, if you do farmers markets or
Yeah.
other type of sales, you can also add them manually. You can keep track of your retail and wholesale sales as well. So that's very a really good thing to have, because you're going to have your sales in just one place.
Right.
You are going to have accurate numbers. You're gonna be able to see what you actually have in stock, so you won't be overselling your products. That is something that we try to avoid, right?
Right.
So if you sell something in Shopify, Inventora will tell Etsy that you don't have that in stock anymore, or we'll deduct automatically all the products and materials since the sales are coming.
Oh, that's amazing. So should someone be using multiple platforms, Inventora is essentially the centralized source of truth. So
Correct.
it's saying that we have 100 units of this particular component, and 50 of them got sold through the storefront, and 10 of them got sold on Etsy, which means Inventora is saying we're left with 40 units remaining as total inventory. So Inventora is essentially the source of truth on the consolidated version. It's not relying on Shopify or Etsy or any other platform that somebody may be using. It is only Inventora that's pushing the new inventory into those systems.
Correct.
Okay.
That's how.
That's extremely helpful. And for those of you that do use any of those platforms, I encourage you to integrate an inventory system like Inventora into those platforms. It will be life-changing. I think for those of you that have experienced any one of those platforms, having something externally plugged in is I think a little bit more efficient in some cases, just because of its specific reporting. The fact that it is a source of truth means you're using one system to track its inventory rather than managing it on a variety of different platforms, which could be very, very difficult, especially if sales have different volumes, within each of the platforms. And the fact that you can take this externally outside of a platform, such as a farmer's market, or an on-site sale, and tracking inventory there is hugely beneficial, because I know personally that is an amazing opportunity and an amazing channel to grow brand awareness and to move product are through a variety of different farmers markets. There's school events that happen, a lot that, people do pull permits to go and sell on. So I think that is also an added component that, Shopify at this point doesn't have that ability to do so. So having something externally would be, great to utilize. So I definitely encourage you to do that. Delmith, before we kind of wrap up, just if you don't mind, if you can just kind of reiterate the importance of the system, but more importantly, who is this for? I don't want people thinking that it's for someone who's hit a certain level of revenue. I also don't want anyone thinking that it's for the person who just started yesterday. Like, I want this to be portrayed as in a way where it is really built for everyone. And the importance of it, I can't speak enough of. I mean, we're business owners. I understand wholeheartedly how impactful not having a true lens on your inventory could be to your business. But if you could kind of just, summarize who Inventora is for, this will be extremely helpful for everyone.
Yes, I think Inventora, it's the system that can grow with you. So for us, we always encourage people to start doing inventory management since the very beginning. So that's why we have a free plan that has like the basic features of the system that can help you just to start having the habit of having the inventory management for your business. So I think that's, if you're just starting, or if you just have the idea and you just want to start having the habit of doing inventory management for your business, I think the free plan is the best fit for you. But also, once you start scaling and you need more features, we have a business plan that it's very affordable. It's just $19 per month. So you can just sign up and you will have the e-commerce integration, the customers, the suppliers feature, all of those things in just one place. If you have team members already, you can also use the system. The business plan is perfect for you. So like you see, Inventora can grow with you as well. And like I mentioned at the beginning, we are always adding features that can help every small business owner. And like I said, if you make the product from scratch, Inventora is just perfect for you.
Yeah, that's incredible. I mean, the fact that you have different tiers that can accommodate different sizes of businesses, which also incentivizes someone who may just want to start out on the free plan, to kind of grow with the inventory system before you make some form of a financial commitment, which obviously, to your point, is not as expensive as some of the traditional inventory systems out there that can cost, in some cases, 10 times as much, if not more. Also, Village has a discount code for those that want to sign up to Inventora. We will add it as a link as part of this interview release. You do get 20% off the Inventora services, which we'll be excited to kind of share with you. I can't stress it enough. Can't thank you enough for being on here. This was amazing. Again, this is a topic that we both love to discuss, and kudos to you guys for developing something for small businesses, solopreneurs that have access to resources that can help scale and grow a business. I think you guys are on the right page. You're doing amazing things. More of this has to occur, because I think, small businesses is essentially what's allowing our economy to continue to grow. And, the makers out there are truly the backbone. They're fantastic. And they are the businesses that need these type of services, right? And we all do. I think having this opportunity to be able to provide this at an accessible speed and accessible rate is what makes a big difference, in my opinion. So I appreciate your time. Thank you so much. We will provide you the link with this video. Thanks so much for listening. We really appreciate it. And we'll catch you guys next time. Thanks so much, Delmith.
Well, thank you for having me.
Thanks.